How good is the Europa League? Not a phrase that I thought I'd say for quite some time, and probably haven't said for quite some time, especially as a Liverpool fan. This season, it's something we can enjoy and not hang our heads in shame, not sort of go, oh God, do we have to go and do that one again? I get it. There's probably going to be complaints in the long term, Thursday nights, Sundays, Thursday nights, whatever the day it is we have to play, but there are good vibes at the moment around that. And despite the fact that this is another game where Liverpool have gone behind, there's been another comeback, there is this, I don't know, there is a bit of belief, a little bit of like, hey, something could be kind of going on here back in this Liverpool side. And even though Jurgen Klopp changed so much of the starting 11, in fact, almost all 11, coming back into this game, I still feel like you could see there was a confidence within the side. And I feel like part of that comes from a lot of people on the channel have been asking me to talk about these units or bubbles or, pairings or, little partner areas on the field. So like, I kind of referenced it in previous videos, but what Liverpool seem to be doing at the moment is obviously pairing all these different people up in orientations and giving them almost joint group tasks. Not like a class project kind of thing, but like you can see Liverpool know now what player triggers what and where. And in previous years, especially last year, that didn't seem to be the case. Now, you can fall behind to a fantastic strike that was clearly like an orchestrated training ground piece. The screens are put up, it gets to the edge of the box, and even if Gravenberch can just about get to him, it's a perfect strike. And the Austrians deserve to go 1-0 up against Liverpool early on. Liverpool really didn't create all that much in the first half, and that will probably be a bit of a criticism, but I can tell you elements of why that is. First of all, can we just acknowledge this kit is just a nice kit? Like, the purple's good. I actually love the collar, like this part I really like. I think I kind of like the short shirt combination that's going on, and there's something about this feel that I like. Anyway, it's third kit, you know what I mean? I'm kind of always envious of Spurs' third kit. They seem to give them these like A1 third kits, and sometimes we've been a little underserved. This, I kind of like. Let's talk about, look at that. There's Liverpool's domination pretty much throughout the game. But these are those moments in the first half where Liverpool were worried. These are those moments where the opposition could break on Liverpool, where Konate and Van Dijk looked a little bit uncomfortable. And let's face it, that was because in the first half, they were the only two defenders. They had Tsimikas, not our regular left back or left centre back, and they had Bajcetic, who was a very unusual choice for that side. Like Endo's playing in the team, and Bajcetic is playing in an almost Trent type role, as you can kind of see here. But what's weird about that is why would you put him in that position when it was quite clear that he was very much out of his comfort zone in that area of the field, right? And part of that is obviously, Jurgen Klopp is having to rotate players. He probably doesn't feel that there's going to be all that much challenge to Bajcetic, but he had to make a lot of conservative / tactical tackles this evening, and that doesn't feel right. Feels a little bit unfair. Feels like he wasn't unleashed in the way that he needed to be. But that allowed people like Harvey Elliott, it allowed people like Ryan, it allowed people like Ben Doak to get down the line, because essentially Liverpool were playing someone who was relatively creative. But what it did not do was hook up anything from right back, because let's face it, he didn't really play right back. Like, his distribution from right back was not what you would want at right back. Like, it's not a personal criticism, he's just not a right back. He's not comfortable in that position. Tsimikas, not similarly, but he's clearly very advanced, and it leaves Virgil van Dijk and Konate very open. And you could see, obviously, that they were much more comfortable holding the fort and pushing everyone else on. I kind of wonder at this point, a couple of people text me recently, like, what do you think the Endo role is? What do you think he brings technically to the team? What do you think it is that, Liverpool are trying to achieve by having a midfield like that? And you kind of saw unit tonight of Gravenberch, Endo. Harvey Elliott seemed a lot more like pushed out here to me, but, was also quite busy in this area and really was there seemingly as cover and to just give a little bit more support to Bajcetic. I like the Harvey Elliott role this evening, but I want to talk about this Endo. Look, it's basically this as a unit here. He then pushes on there. He's just on it, isn't he? And then Doak actually looked a little bit isolated, but you could argue that is like a bit of a unit, but it's really not. It didn't operate as such. However, what I did enjoy in that half was actually the interchange between these three, where it was more out here, wasn't it? I liked that. I thought that worked really well. You could see it was frustrating the Austrians. You could see that they didn't enjoy and were clearly putting in a lot of strong tackles on Liverpool players. Not nearly Ryan Gravenberch, who, like in the first minute, sustained like one of the weirdest early tackles I've ever seen. Right, and it was a weird one. From there on out, I felt like Liverpool looked relatively comfortable in the game. I'm going to be honest. Like, and the dominance chart kind of shows that. There were moments where you can sort of see that the Austrians were coming back into it, but never really. Liverpool's goals, Liverpool's control of the match, whether it was the first or the second unit, so flicking between these two, never really waned. And, even though Klopp brought on that second unit, and I do think that players like Szoboszlai and McAllister had a lot more control in the game, had a lot better idea of how that front line was moving than the combination of Gravenberch and possibly Harvey Elliott, though I did enjoy the little interchanges between Gravenberch and Nunez, Gravenberch and Diaz. He's clearly a player who loves to get on, loves to defend from high up the field, is really good at winning it back really far down the field and just turning defence into attack. Liverpool are, again, a slightly more refined pressing unit. And Jurgen Klopp said it the other day, right? He's talked about this Liverpool 2.0. There are still these DNA strands throughout the side, but it's not the same Liverpool side. And obviously that's clear from personnel. In fact, Joe Gomez was the only player who played in this game who had previously played in a Europa League campaign for Liverpool. That obviously says something about the success of the team, but it also says something about the fact that this team is turning over a lot of characters right now. I get it, there is something there. But it's unusual, shall I say, that Liverpool have got this much turnover. This is an entirely new midfield left side, and not really a combination of three it's not a combination we've ever seen before. In fact, it's more like that's like that slanted box that they like to play. He was trying to invert, but the Austrians just would not let Bajcetic involve and get inverted. So that kind of worked for them. I felt like they stifled Liverpool quite nicely. Anyway, what then happened after that was, Ben Doak, by the way, fantastic technicality. A lot of very good players with their feet here. Luis Diaz was just having fun out there. That's what I love. Liverpool 1-0 down. Luis Diaz, Doak, all these guys are just going at the opposition because they know that's where they're most dangerous. But it's not like a kind of like, hey, we need to get a goal back here. It's kind of like I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to get in your face. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm going to show you that our superiority ultimately will play out. Now, that's not necessarily arrogant, but it just shows that Liverpool have got this confidence. We will score. Diaz was putting the balls around people. He was combining really well. There was a moment where Tsimikas was running down the field with the ball. You could see Diaz just wanted it at his feet. That is great. But then when Salah came on, when you saw basically Szoboszlai basically come into the game and just be like a wrecking ball to the opposition, you saw what this Liverpool team was capable of. They so effortlessly moved through the gears. They so effortlessly just went, you know what, you can play at us, but we're just going to pick the ball back up and just move through you. It felt so effortless at times. Joe Gomez came on, much more solid right back. Obviously, I felt sorry for Bajcetic at that point. I felt maybe they could have subbed him, put him in the middle of the field and just given him a bit of time in the midfield. But that was where I have to talk about this guy. I kind of mentioned him earlier, Harvey Elliott. He has a great combination with Salah. He was looking for those combinations with Nunez. He was pushing on here, and it was allowing Salah to slip inside here. It was allowing Nunez to slip inside here. Liverpool were basically in lots of positions where you go, I get it. That's a unit. But weirdly, that's a unit. Do you know what I mean? And weirdly, Joe Gomez isn't involved in that. I mean, he is, but he isn't, if you get what I mean. He can be much more conservative because of this unit of four that basically just go, we're going to push all into this area. And you could see, Salah, Nunez, pretty much anyone who was looking to push. Even at one point, it was Bajcetic, wasn't it, right? Yeah, he pushed into this area after the first unit of subs. Basically then was looking to cut it back across. They knew there was a weakness on this side. They knew they could get someone into here, and basically here. And in the end, that's where the Salah goal came from. That's where Liverpool's second goal came from. I don't think it was a penalty, if I'm quite honest. I actually think that Liverpool were really fortunate to get back into the game. But ultimately, you could see their supremacy really, really paid off. And, I get it. There's a huge gap between these two sides. So maybe that's not something to celebrate. But what there is to maybe critique is Liverpool keep falling behind in a lot of these games. It's kind of unusual to say, hey, they keep falling behind and that's the issue, because that was not a freak goal, it was an incredible goal from the Austrians. You can't exactly say like, yeah, Liverpool should legislate for that. Maybe there's an element of not quite being match savvy enough because there's a lot of young players in there. Maybe there's an element of not quite being at the races sometimes or being just a little bit too lackadaisical. But I can't say that that is therefore indicative for the whole team and that Liverpool look like that all the time. They don't. So, by the way, one thing that I absolutely have to acknowledge here is Mo Salah. His new role is fantastic. The inside right, the provider, the guy who's hooking up with all these other people. But not only that, the guy who's putting passes through, the guy who's cognizant of where all the rest of his teammates are, the guy who looks involved in the play. He's always been a great player, but this is really unlocking some of the best from him. He's able to wander around where he wants to. People seem to be able to adapt around him. He is adapting with other people. And on top of that, the elite finish that he put on tonight and through the goalkeeper's legs, but also just sort of Liverpool were able to just dance through multiple players at multiple times. Mo Salah did it more beautifully than anyone else. Possibly not Ryan Gravenberch. There was a bit when Nunez did it, but it finished with Salah, and that's the difference. Like Salah is a difference maker. He is an ender of a piece of play, and you do obviously see the difference between Liverpool with Salah and Liverpool without Salah. And you know, obviously that's not from Ben Doak, but you could put other players in that position, obviously, but. Of course, Salah is currently dancing around. He is elite for Liverpool. He's probably one of Liverpool's starting all-time 11. And at this point, his record in the Europa League, how impressive he looks consistently, how brilliant the side look on the right side whenever he's on there, and how much people love combining with him. You've got to judge a player so often by whether other players love combining with him. There's just something there that's really special. And I've got to say, I'm really just eating it up at the moment. Overall, it felt very comfortable for Liverpool in the end, whether it was the first orientation of the side where it seems a lot more almost like, this was much more like a 4-3-3, but it was actually much more like a 2-3-2-3. That was, so the 2, yeah, here's your 2, here's your 3, here's your 2, and here's your 3. And then in the second orientation, obviously, you then have your 2, but more like a 3, and then you have your 2, there's kind of a 2 there, but there's not, and then a 3. So it really goes 3-2-2-3. Yeah? Does that make sense? Even though Luis Diaz is super deep, he just comes to keep picking the ball up. He was honestly my favourite player of the whole game today. I was like looking at him like, you are enjoying playing for us. And there were times where he was like dragging Liverpool back into this game. There were times where you just look and go, you love what you do out on that field. He was just pounding away at LASK and just going, Lask, and just literally saying, I'm going to drag this team through. There are a couple of players who've got that kind of mentality, who I think are even in the starting 11, but were definitely in the subs. Luis Diaz is one of those. Darwin Nunez seems like one of those. Gravenberch seems like one of those. To an extent, Harvey Elliott does. I thought Kelleher had a great save, even though the guy was offside when he took the shot, but I feel like he's a solid future goalkeeper. Konate kind of looks a little bit lost at sea at times at the moment. There are times where I wonder if there's like something going on behind the scenes. But I did this whole screenshot of these two sides because I wanted to acknowledge one thing. Liverpool played a very congested 7 tonight, right? And that front 3, really a front 2 or front 2 unit where they were trying to break and counter-attack on Liverpool, they didn't get too much joy, for honest. Really, the joy came from one corner when they had a very nicely drawn up play. And then after that, it was just everyone sit back, everyone just do what you can to keep Liverpool away from that goal. There were the tactical fouls that people like Pep Guardiola even employ, but then on the opposite side of that, there was also just true depth to it. Like they just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And you could see they were really comfortable in those positions because they knew they'd have to play this. They knew that weirdly, like that's what you kind of get in the Europa League, right? They're not used to being this tactically inferior to another side or technically inferior to another side. So it becomes difficult the more the game goes on. And what I've seen is Klopp is getting a lot more patient. Klopp's patient and the players' patience is paying off. Hence why players like Diaz can go out there and have a good time. People like Nunez can just run through. People like Doak can be played. This is the Europa League to test things like this. And I love seeing the youth. It's great to see Bajcetic back. It's great to see Elliott. It's great to see Doak. It's great to see Gravenberch just get a start. He's barely been in the team for a couple of weeks. Endo, there are a couple of people who question what his role really is. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below what his role is. Kelleher, Nunez, Diaz, I could just keep going. But I spoke about these units. I spoke about the need for Liverpool to capitalise on the Europa League this season and basically go, hey, look, are we going to win it? Who knows? Like, it's probably Klopp's only trophy he hasn't won in the whole time at being at Liverpool, so maybe it's good to have a run at it, right? But like, this team could be a starting team in the Premier League for Liverpool. I love that there is this little unit. I kind of looked at it at one point and I was like, there could be Gravenberch, there could be McAllister, there could be Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai, by the way, I'm just saying, does he remind you at all of Cristiano Ronaldo when he runs on his toes? Do you know what I mean? I think you might know what I mean. Yeah. Anyway, he's just so upper body. He's got that like high center of gravity and he kind of like shifts it. He looks almost like a Real Madrid player, if that makes sense. Annoyingly, because I don't like them much. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, there's something where you get like, when he came on, I can see that unit forming. I can see this Liverpool midfield reforming. You can see what the vision of Jurgen Klopp is at this point. And I kind of like it. It's frustrating because, like, I actually also really feel like in recent games, and I said this last season, they had some terrible games, but Joe Gomez has had some good games. He's looked like the old Joe Gomez. Someone actually left it as a comment below. It was like, I was talking about the less like favoured Liverpool players, and I think people thought I was saying less experienced. Matip came on, Gomez came on. You know, those guys were starting centre-backs in the previous game. But people sort of got in the comments and kind of reminded me to mention it because it's something I just sort of take for granted. But like, these guys are experienced centre-backs that Liverpool have as backup right now. I feel like Joe Gomez could start for other Premier League teams. I feel like Matip could start for a Bundesliga side for multiple different teams. And Liverpool have them as this backup. And Joe Gomez came on, and credit to him, a few seasons ago, I don't think people would have thought that Joe Gomez could get to this level now, where he's basically going like, oh, I'm kind of getting back towards where I was, or at least like being a lot more commanding, where he wasn't last season. Liverpool lost heavily to Naples in Napoli in Naples last season. Like, that's what I'm saying here, is this team, they're growing in confidence. They clearly are reinvigorating themselves. You know, it's nice, obviously, to see Van Dijk back after the ban. During the ban, obviously, wasn't great. I think we might lose into one more game anyway. Konate, I still think, he's off the pace just ever so slightly, but he's so commanding when he does get the ball. Just loves that, like, putting in a shoulder and whatever. So it's good. But overall, obviously, you know, it's a win against LASK. Don't run away with yourselves. I think the main thing we take away from tonight is obviously that the away jersey and the third kit's nice. And that it pairs really nicely with a pair of these. Nice joggers. Just saying. Yeah, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Like, you know, I know Liverpool looked off it. I know it's another game where they've gone down early. These are all very different ways they've gone down early, though. Liverpool and Klopp need to look at that. They need to address that. Because you know what's weird about it is, if you address that early on, the dominance throughout a game that Liverpool could exert with this side, with this side, or with this final team where you had like your McAllisters, your Szoboszlais, you had Elliott. Like, you know, Elliott's playing this role right now where it's just like, hey, I'm not sure that you are having just one specific thing. Like, he's changing almost throughout the game and just being put in different spots. He's like a plug and play with multiple different players. He's got like great relationships with Salah, Gomez, Szoboszlai, Nunez. He can get the ball out there. Like, at one point, he tried to like cross the ball from this area of the field over there, and it basically split these two because they didn't know who was going for it. Like, sometimes I feel like he's almost too footballingly intelligent and can't apply it because obviously, you know, he's A, young, but B, maybe sometimes he does go even further than they expect him to. There's a lot there. By the way, I really enjoyed that Van Dijk looked quite comfortable tonight. I mean, obviously he is in the Europa League, but super comfortable, like almost just arrogantly comfortable. I enjoyed that. Keller, good to see you on the side. Bajcetic, good to have you back. Endo, I've got to admit, I kind of like it if I'm not focusing on my DM midfielder. If I'm sort of like, did he play? Sort of like, oh, right, your shadow that you cast everywhere, what you did was so quiet, so easy, so, oh yeah, you just got on with your job and were always an option. And I really like that. So, love it. Gravenberch was a real star player tonight. I felt like it was that left side for Liverpool that made it. It was this unit tonight that made it for me. And then in the second set of units, it was this unit that made it. Two different units there. Love to know what unit you guys loved. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. If you haven't already hit subscribe, I'd appreciate it. We're almost at 80k. Almost. Can we get there? I don't know. Let's find out. See you guys in that one. Much love. Bye.